In episode 6, BlueRiver identified the risks and opportunities that deserve management attention. But attention is not yet improvement. A risk can be high, an opportunity can be attractive, and a policy can point in the right direction. Yet, performance will not change unless the organization turns those priorities into objectives with a mechanism behind them. Episode 7 is about quality objectives, but not as lists of targets. No. The central question is, how does BlueRiver turn priorities into objectives that actually change performance? The key idea is simple. A target measures ambition. A mechanism explains what the organization will do differently to make the result plausible. Now, episode 6 ended with a decision register. It showed BlueRiver where attention matters: cap supply, labeling, capacity, knowledge, and opportunities such as faster changeovers. But the register does not tell the organization which results it intends to move, by how much, or by when. Now, episode 7 creates that bridge. BlueRiver selects the results that need to improve or be protected and turns them into measurable priorities. Then, each objective is connected to actions, resources, ownership, timing, indicators, and evaluation. This is the mechanism. Objectives are therefore not a separate ISO exercise. They translate risk, opportunity, policy, and strategy into managed change. Now, reduce complaints sounds like an objective, but by itself it's only a direction. Adding a numerical target improves it because BlueRiver can now judge success. But even a target is not a plan. It still doesn't explain why complaints are occurring or what the organization will change to reduce them. If most complaints come from labeling, delivery errors, and leaking caps, then the mechanism has to address those failure modes. The target tells BlueRiver where it wants to arrive. The mechanism explains how the organization believes it can get there. This distinction is important because management can hold people accountable for actions and learning, not simply for wishing that an indicator improves. BlueRiver should not begin its objective setting meeting with a blank page. No, it's not a completely free brainstorming session. No, the system has already generated the inputs. Okay, so the quality policy identified reliable delivery, controlled customization, traceability, responsive service, supplier reliability, and product conformity. Customer promises make some results particularly important. Episode 6 determine risks and opportunities that need attention. And existing process performance shows where results are weak or unstable. Together, these inputs reveal the measurable priorities. This makes objectives coherent with the QMS rather than arbitrary. BlueRiver is not inventing targets because the calendar says it is January. No, it is deciding which results must move because the strategy, the promises, and the evidence say they matter. Clause 6.2 gives BlueRiver a useful discipline. So, quality objectives should be consistent with the policy, relevant to the QMS, measurable where practicable, monitored, communicated, and updated as needed. The 2026 revision does not materially change this logic. BlueRiver converts the requirements into practical management questions. Does the objective support the promises the organization has chosen to make? Does it matter to conformity or customer satisfaction? Can the result be measured? Will it be reviewed often enough to intervene? Do the people who influence it know what is expected? And will management update the objective if assumptions change? So, an objective should be meaningful enough to manage and specific enough to evaluate. BlueRiver also separates four concepts that are often mixed together. The objective is the result the organization wants to change. The indicator is how that result is observed. The target defines the level and time horizon that represents success. And the action or mechanism describes what BlueRiver will change in the system to make that target plausible. For delivery reliability, the objective may be to improve dependable supply. The indicator may be OTIF. The target may be 97% by the fourth quarter. And the mechanism may involve capacity thresholds, schedule discipline, and supplier escalation. A KPI without an objective is just observation. And the target without a mechanism is just pressure. Objectives should focus management attention on results that matter to the chosen promises and current priorities. Here, in this slide, BlueRiver selects a small set: reliable delivery, controlled customization, first pass conformity, process stability, and customer complaints. The numbers shown in the table are illustrative for the fictional case. What matters is the logic. So each objective has a baseline and a target, but BlueRiver will only keep it as a real management priority if the organization can explain why it matters, what actions will influence it, who owns those actions, and how progress will be evaluated. The objective set should focus the QMS, not recreate every line of the operational dashboard. Okay? Priorities. So the first objective follows directly from BlueRiver's retailer promise: dependable supply. OTIF gives the organization an outcome measure, but the objective is not owned by dispatch alone. So late delivery can originate in order acceptance, capacity planning, supplier shortages, production instability, or dispatch coordination. The mechanism therefore crosses processes. BlueRiver defines capacity thresholds before accepting demand, protects parts of the production schedule from constant disruption, escalates supplier shortages earlier, and communicates delivery exceptions before the window is lost. It also watches leading evidence such as thresholds breaches and emergency schedule changes. The objective belongs to the process flow, not to one particular department. For selected private label customers, labeling errors can damage the customer's brand. BlueRiver therefore turns controlled customization into a measurable priority. But again, the target is not the mechanism. The mechanism is upstream control. Only released artwork versions are available. Customer-specific labels are segregated. The first product after changeover is verified and the line clearance is confirmed. Now, there is a cultural risk here, okay? So if managers reward the number without caring how it is achieved, people may hide, delay, or reclassify incidents. The KPI would improve while the system becomes less trustworthy. Quality objectives must reinforce the culture established in episode 4, not undermine it. Customer complaints are an important outcome, but BlueRiver should not create one generic project called Reduce Complaints. No, not that. The team first separates the dominant failure modes, okay? The main reasons for the complaints. Delivery complaints may require improvement in capacity planning and contingency communication. Label complaints require stronger artwork and changeover controls. Leakage complaints require better cap process control. inspection, and release evidence. And this creates several mechanisms feeding one customer outcome. The complaint rate tells BlueRiver whether customers experience improvement. It does not tell the organization what to change. Outcome measures tell you what happened. Improvement work must address why it happened. BlueRiver also needs indicators that move earlier than complaints. Fill volume variation reveals process stability. First pass acceptance shows how often product meets requirements without rework or additional intervention. The proportion of leaks detected before dispatch shows whether controls are catching problems before customers do. These measures do not replace customer outcomes, they complement them. Complaints are late signals. Process measures provide earlier evidence that the operating system is becoming more capable. A useful objective set therefore gives management both a rear-view mirror and an early warning system. So, a mechanism is simply the organization's explanation of why the planned actions should move the result. For labeling errors, BlueRiver starts with the problem, identifies the driver, weak version and changeover control, introduces specific interventions, checks leading evidence that those interventions are actually being used, and then evaluates whether the outcome improves. The mechanism does not need to be a complex statistical model. It needs to be explicit enough to test. If the intervention is implemented and the outcome does not move, well, BlueRiver has learned something. Either the mechanism was incomplete, the action was ineffective, or another driver matters more. Without this logic, the objective is a wish attached to a number, just that. And this is where clause 6.2 becomes operational. BlueRiver has to plan what will be done, what resources are required, who is responsible, when actions will be completed, and how results will be evaluated. In practice, BlueRiver also makes the measurement logic explicit, which leading and outcome indicators will show progress. The question forces the organization to move from "we should improve this" to an executable plan. Resources can include people, equipment, data, supplier support, budget, or simply protected management time. Ownership should distinguish the person accountable for the objective from the people responsible for individual actions. And evaluation should ask whether the mechanism produced the intended result, not merely whether the tasks were completed. So the practical tool for episode 7 is a quality objective deployment sheet. It is deliberately compact. At the top, BlueRiver states the objective and why it matters. For example, which policy commitment, customer promise, risk, or opportunity it supports. It records the baseline, target indicators, and review frequency. The middle of the sheet describes the mechanism and actions. And the lower section assigns ownership, resources, due dates, evidence of implementation, and the method for evaluating effectiveness. ISO 9001 does not require this specific form, no. The value of this kind of form, of this kind of sheet, is that it keeps the objective, the plan, and the evidence in one place so management can review the logic rather than merely the final number. Here is a completed example. BlueRiver wants to improve OTIF delivery for regional retailers from 92% to at least 97% for the fourth quarter. The objective matters because dependable delivery is part of the chosen customer promise and because episode 6 determined capacity pressure as a high risk. The planning manager owns the objective, but the mechanism is cross-functional. So, a capacity gate before order acceptance, a supplier shortage escalation, a protected schedule window, and daily review of at-risk dispatches. BlueRiver reviews OTIF together with leading indicators and failure causes. The important distinction is that completing the actions is not the same as achieving the objective. Evaluation asks whether the actions actually change the result. Targets create a tension, and the tension changes behavior. That is useful, but it can also create unintended consequences. So, if OTIF is rewarded in isolation, people may be tempted to ship before conformity uncertainty is resolved. If managers demand fewer complaints without protecting transparency, employees may discourage reporting or reclassify cases. If first pass acceptance becomes an absolute target, someone may loosen internal criteria rather than improve the process. BlueRiver, therefore, reviews objectives together. The quality policy provides the boundaries. Dependable delivery matters, but not at the expense of conformity, traceability, or honest communication. The objective is better QMS performance, not prettier individual indicators. At review time, BlueRiver should not ask only whether the target was met. If it was missed, the team first checks whether the planned actions were actually implemented. If not, the problem is execution. If actions were implemented but the leading drivers did not change, the intervention may have been wrong or too weak. If leading indicators improved but the final outcome was not moved yet, more time may be needed. And if the outcome improves, BlueRiver has evidence that supports the mechanism and can consider standardizing or extending it. Missing a target is information. Objective management should create learning, not simply more pressure. The practical output of episode 7 is a quality objective deployment sheet. Each priority now has a strategic reason, a baseline, target, timing, leading, and outcome indicators, a mechanism, actions, resources, ownership, and the method for evaluating effectiveness. BlueRiver can now distinguish between measuring performance and managing improvement. The organization knows what result it wants to move and what it intends to change in order to move it. The next question is operational. How will BlueRiver organize and control the work needed to deliver these objectives and customer promises consistently? So, episode 8 moves into operational planning and control. Plan the work before the line starts is the topic for episode 8. Now, if your organization needs support with a transition to ISO 9001:2026, or if you are looking to improve your current quality management system, perhaps I can help. I also support organizations that are starting from the beginning and want to implement ISO 9001 in a practical, business-oriented way. So you can contact me using the email shown on the screen or send me a direct message on LinkedIn.